Hi, welcome to Shark Tank India unofficial website's YouTube channel. I'm Aditi Thinkerbell, a final year entrepreneurship student at Ashoka University. The motive of this website is to support entrepreneurs in India. And as a part of it, you can refer to the database of all entrepreneurs along with their socials from Shark Tank India Season 1 on sharktankindia.com. Moving ahead on this journey, we now have Dilip Ramesh with us, who is the co-founder of Thinkerbell Labs and also one of the star participants of Season 1, to share his insights and learning from his journey. So, without further ado, I welcome you, Dilip.
Thank you. Pleasure being here.
For anyone who might not know, could you please tell us in brief what Thinkerbell Lab does?
Sure. Yeah. So Thinkerbell Labs is a startup in the edtech domain. Our vision is to make education more inclusive. Our flagship product is Annie. It's the world's most comprehensive braille literacy device. Annie is named after Anne Sullivan, who was Helen Keller's teacher. So in the visually impaired community, when you say Anne Sullivan, they immediately think of a teacher. So Annie will teach you how to read, write, and type in braille, which are the essential skills for literacy. And what we are going after is braille literacy, because the braille literacy rates across the globe are very, very low. And there isn't a lot of tech or advancement in any sort of learning methodology in the last 3-4 decades to try and improve this. And that is where we are getting at.
That sounds really interesting. So how did you pick the name Thinkerbell Labs?
we have a very elaborate naming process when we come up with any name. So the entire company gets involved. We have a brainstorming session, and then there's a lot of debate on the options. Then we start rolling them out, shortlisting, and then finally there's a vote for it. Thinkerbell Labs, when we came up with it, it was just the four of us. I don't exactly remember how we came up with it, but I think we were trying to embody two things. One is that there's a lot of thought going into what we're doing and why we're doing it, and the second aspect was innovation. So Bell Labs is something we all look up to, right? That's quite known for innovation and having changed the face of the world. So something sort of named, put together both of those, and we came up with it. There isn't a lot of science behind it.
I'm sure you've had a lot of aha moments, but if you have to just talk about one aha moment you have had so far, like the biggest one, which one would that be?
Biggest one or not, I don't know, but I had a really good one which sort of did influence a large part of the product. So we were in UK doing field trials, I think about 4 or 5 years ago, and all our early prototypes were white. They were just plain white. So our thinking, just getting into it, was okay, visually impaired, color wouldn't be too much of a factor for them. So we just had these white prototypes, and we were giving demos and trying to get feedback from users and things like that. And this school where we had a 6-year-old child using the device, and there was a break in the middle, and I was trying to converse with him. Somehow, for some reason, the first question I asked him was, "What is your favorite color?" It should not have been my first question, but it somehow came up in that small talk. And as soon as I asked that question, I was taken aback. I was like, "Oh no, did I just ask a blind child what his favorite color is?" And I was regretting what I asked. And he also paused for a while, sort of making me feel worse. And then he immediately, blurted out chrome silver. And then he went on to list 4 other favorite colors he had. So, I mean, turns out color is also something that's very important to the visually impaired. We cannot take it for granted that it is not, because it's not for us to say. So they have a lot of identity and personal association with different colors, and they would like to be associated with different colors. And some of them do have some residual vision through which they can see some aspects of it. So color is also something important. And if the personal device that we are selling to them, that they're going to use for extended periods of time, they would like it to be of a color that they like as well. So now after that, we started making Annie in multiple colors. You can see on our website as well, it's available in a lot of colors. So we do have a lot of people coming and asking, "Hey, I would like this color, I would like that color." So yeah, it did influence a lot of the product from that moment onwards.
I see. You have actually had a lot of interesting stories in your journey. So I know that you have been bombarded with a lot of Shark Tank questions, but there are some that I also have. So for example, how did you plan your pitch, like the Shark Tank pitch, and how much time did you actually spend on presenting?
So the initial thought we had was to just treat this like we would do any other investor pitch. So one thing we were sure of was that we did have a lot of strong company fundamentals, and we wanted to put that across in the best way possible, in as much clarity as possible. So I think clarity is one thing we were going for, because it's a global audience and it's on TV. So we just get a few minutes there. So we were trying to ensure that our pitch was very clear. And the other aspect is we're looking at delivery as well, how exactly we were going to put it across. We didn't want to do something very extravagant, because it's not really in our nature personally to try and put up a show there, which also I'm sure does the job. It grabs eyeballs, it conveys your content in a good way, but it's not very inherent to how the four of us function. So we said, okay, we'll just stick to our strengths. We have a great story to tell. We have a good company and good fundamentals company. So we'll tell it in the best way possible. And then Seth came up with this idea that we can actually have one of our users also, on stage and demonstrate the product instead of us doing it ourselves. So Prathamesh, who was also on the show with us, he's been a user of Annie since 2019, since we did a deployment in his blind school in Pune. So we reached out to him, and then we were like, okay, he was very interested and excited as well. So we got him on board. So that turned out to be a great move. We weren't really, posturing it that way. We thought it'd be good for the story to be told from the horse's mouth, and that's what we were going for. But it turned out to be really good and in our favor.
That's true. In fact, that is one of the things I very clearly remember from the pitch. Talking about the investors, did you have any investor in mind before you came in, or like what kind of research did you do on the investors before coming to the show?
We've done a fair bit of research on who these people are, what sort of companies there are, and how the companies are doing. We looked at what prior investments they had done. Yeah, and typical investor research that you would do before going into any investor pitch is what we had gone with. We didn't try to guess any question areas that they might have, because that's that didn't make sense to us. But I don't think we had any. I think Lenskart was one which we thought was in our space, or rather we are in a similar space. So we were hoping to have Piyush on board, which went as per plan. Apart from that, I think all of them have their own strengths. So we wanted all five of them. But yeah, we're happy we got three of them.
And how does it work after Shark Tank India? Like, how much are the investors involved, and how much do you get to interact with them?
I think that's something that's very specific to the company and the investor. There isn't a set template there, I'm sure. We are quite happy with how involved our investors have been with us and how available and accessible they are to us. And we've gotten a lot of we had a lot of great conversations with them. We've discussed strategy with them, broader, long-term, wider strategies. They've also facilitated some great conversations for us with other experts in the field, in their network, and they've been a source of great strength for us. It sort of helps us make our plans, company plans, banking on their strength as well. So it's been really good so far.
Makes sense. Also, how did you decide on a counter offer? Because on the show there was a lot of negotiation that was going on. So did you have a threshold in mind that this is bare minimum that we want, kind of thing?
We did have a fair estimate of what we think we were valued at. We had our reasons for it as well. We also knew there would be, anybody who's watched Shark Tank from anywhere across the globe knows there will be negotiation, right? So we were also expecting negotiations there. And I don't think our initial ask was bloated, because we said, let's ask something that we really think we're worth, something we can actually defend with respect to, why we think we're worth that much. And our walkaway point, or the last point, was a previous round valuation, because we did not want to do a down round. So we said, okay, let's keep it open. If we see value add coming in from the investors, from the sharks there, we can, talk about previous round valuation as a last point. And that's what we did. So I think there's a question towards the end where they were like, why aren't you taking this deal? And we said, it's a down round. We don't want to do a down round. then they asked us, so what's the previous round valuation? We said 35, and then they were like, okay, let's do that. And then that's when the deal closed. So that was great. It was good to see that there was understanding on both sides, and it was quite positive for us.
Yeah, I could see that everybody was in the end happy with the deal, like all of you guys as well as the investors. So Shark Tank also brings a lot of recognition and validation with it. So how did you make the most out of that? How did it help you?
So a couple of things. One, we weren't doing B2C in India with our devices. We were mostly doing institutional sales and deployments. So we got a lot of B2C requests since the show came out, which has opened up new avenues for us. We have new goals now. We're trying to bring in a B2C model as well, with which we can service all of these requests. The other thing is the way in which a lot of conversations have become smoother for us, because people know about us, and it's easier to start and hold those conversations than it was before, because we're trying to do something that's very new and out of the world. So it's always difficult to explain it in just 20 seconds, 30 seconds. We need to have a 5-minute conversation. And now people who've seen the show, a lot of them have seen the show. They know a lot about us already. So it's a lot more easier to have these conversations.
Thank you, Dilip, for doing this. It was really interesting and insightful. Thank you to everybody who is watching. Stay tuned for more insights from other entrepreneurs that will be coming in the future episodes.